You're making these drivers who maybe have only driving, for their entire career, you're forcing them into this utility position. This is a concession. The Teamsters said, we're not going to let you do this. Yellow cried bloody murder. You're going to make us go bankrupt. It's you. It's the union.
Teddy Ostro is a journalist. He is a freelance journalist, and he is host of the Upsurge podcast. That is a podcast that has been going on for some time now about this fight between the Teamsters and UPS. Teddy, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me again. Nice to see y'all.
Yep, you too. Can you give us a really quick background on what is going on at Yellow Freight? I saw some mention of that in the chat this morning as well. And that is another, that's another story that's been in the news involving the Teamsters, obviously not as large as UPS, but what is the deal there?
Yeah, this is a really big story that isn't getting as much attention because all of the press is, it's being swallowed up drowned out by like what's going on at UPS, but it's a pretty serious situation. Yellow, it's like a nearly 100-year company. It used to be a yellow cab company, but now it's like the third largest LTL, less than truckload freight company in the United States. It's a union company represented by the Teamsters. We're talking about 30,000 workers, 22,000 of which are Teamster members. And it looks like it's not been officially announced yet, but it looks like on Monday they may go into bankruptcy, which is, this is a part of a long saga of mismanagement at the company, concessions by the union to help prop up the company, and some spurious loans and just a range of things that are amounting to basically the implosion of this company. And it's honestly, it's a tragedy is what we're experiencing. Everyone talks about UPS, the UPS contract, Amazon organizing as two of the central, mandates of the new Teamsters leadership, of the labor movement. But turning around union freight, which was like the bread and butter industry of the Teamsters up until this industry was just completely reshaped and just destroyed because of deregulation in the 80s. They wanted to turn it around, and this is not a particularly good thing to happen for the pursuit of unionizing this really dire industry with dire conditions for workers.
Absolutely. And of course, like any time there is a unionized business that closes, the corporate answer to that is going to be just that these union workers were simply too greedy.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
But what does the history of the negotiations between the Teamsters and Yellow over the last 10 to 15 years tell you about the truth value of that argument?
Right. Yeah, that's what we've been hearing out of corporate. Yellow is being pretty pointed with all of their statements saying this is the union that is doing this to us. But the reality is, I want to just, before I even bring in Yellow, union freight, as I said before, was completely destroyed by deregulation in the 80s. Like, we're talking about 450,000 freight workers represented by the National Master Freight Agreement. And now I think there's under 60,000 union freight members. And we're potentially about to lose 22,000 of those. So not looking good. This is an industry-wide issue for the union. Now, Yellow specifically, according to I'm no Yellow expert. There should be a deep investigation into what's going on at that company, because from what I'm hearing, what I could tell, it's a very, very poorly run company, and it has been for a very long time. Around 15 years ago, it was on the brink of bankruptcy as well. And the union basically gave its pension away, parts of the country, conceded billions of dollars to the company to prop it up, basically. And they also have been suffering through having wages pensions where they remained or were not converted into 401k plans, no longer defined benefit plans, but defined contribution plans, which are far worse. This union company really was behind the others, even behind some of the non-union companies. So the union conceded quite a lot under Hoffa Jr. And over time, right, we even saw a pandemic era $700 million loan that a federal investigation found was a really big misstep by the federal government because Yellow was down bad, loaded with debt. But what we're looking at now, the most recent history after all this financial management, is that Yellow was, trying to fix itself, try to remodel itself, restructure, and what's called a change of operations. They basically were taking some of their companies, their carriers that they had bought over the years. Probably, maybe they shouldn't have bought them. They didn't have the money for it, and they were trying to combine them. Unite these networks, which, according to the people I've heard, it probably was a good idea. But what that change of operations would include would be forcing some of these union Yellow drivers into dock work, which you might ask, why is that such a big deal? Well, you're making these drivers who maybe have only driving, for their entire career, and you're forcing them into dock work. You're forcing them into this utility position. And this is a concession. Union freight contracts, have a rigidity to them. You do what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to drive, or you're supposed to do dock work for a reason. And Teamsters generally don't want to have cede this kind of flexibility to the company. And so what happened is the Teamsters said, you're not going to do that. You're going to, if you want to reopen the contract, which expires in 2024, we can do that, but we're not going to let you do this. Yellow, of course, cried bloody murder and was saying, you're going to make us go bankrupt. It's the union, instead of them loading themselves with debt and financially mismanaging the company. Teamsters held strong and said, look, we're not going to give you any more. We're not going to give you any more concessions. This is your fault if this implodes. And they sued the union for $138 million. They stopped paying into the central state's health and welfare and pension funds in June, and they said they wouldn't do it in July. So this is to the tune of $50 million going unpaid, which means that these workers were, about to lose basically their health insurance companies would stop paying for their claims, and also their pensions would no longer accrue. The pension fund extended, gave grace to them at the last minute, and Teamsters were going to strike the company on July 24th if that didn't happen, if the health and welfare funds didn't basically extend the coverage. And so that happened, but now we're looking at bankruptcy. So this is a long even the most recent months, it's been a long sort of history of mismanagement and pointing fingers, but really this is Yellow's fault, and it's a tragedy. Yes,
absolutely. And especially when, this is going to be used against the union, even though, like you said, over the last 15 years, they have given away billions of dollars to this company, and the government has given billions of dollars to this company. And somehow the executives are going to be able to, if they go bankrupt, they're going to be able to go bankrupt. And the media narrative is not going to be, maybe the C-suite executives aren't so smart after all. It's going to be those union workers who maybe a couple of them make six figures. They're just asking for too much, and that's really a shame.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.